Do you like being the odd one out, or do you feel more comfortable when you're blending in? What does it mean to belong to a group if your brain is wired differently? Hi everyone, Paul Mikulev here from Aspergers from the Inside. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. So I'm curious to hear if you often find that you're the odd one out in situations. So I don't know about you, but I find that I end up being the odd one out in lots and lots of different types of situations. And ironically, I actually prefer it that way. There's something about being the odd one out that lets me feel more comfortable being myself because there's no pressure to conform. So what do I mean by that? If I am the only man in a group of women, then obviously I'm the odd one out. Obviously, I'm not going to be expected to conform to all of the all of the group norms that everyone else is otherwise conforming to. When I do something that's different, when I don't want to go along with the rules of the group, or I want to do something my own way, then there's a reason for that, and I'm already expected to be doing something different. So it's not really a problem because I get treated differently in a positive way, rather than being treated and discriminated against for being different. I get accepted for being different. And I've realized that there are so many different examples of this in my life that have just happened naturally and organically. So one is the gender thing. I often feel more comfortable around women. I often comically, even to a comical degree, end up finding myself among groups of women where I'm the only man in the whole group, which is not always a good thing, but kind of interesting dynamic. I find that when I've done a lot of traveling, and I was the Australian in Europe, and I was going to lots of really small towns and couch surfing, and I would be, very exotic because I was from the other side of the world. And so when I didn't know what the culture was, when I didn't know what was socially appropriate, I had a really good excuse. I'm not from here. If you want me to know what the cultural expectations are, you're going to have to tell me, because I'm from a different culture and I'm not expected to know all of the intricacies of your culture because I'm a visitor. I'm a foreigner in this situation. And foreigners get away with a lot more stuff, specifically with regard to prior knowledge about cultural norms and what is and is not appropriate. I actually found it was really strange coming back to Australia and suddenly being expected to know exactly what to do in every situation. And I'd been traveling for so long at that stage that I'd forgotten what it was like to have those kind of expectations put on me, to already know in advance, and for it to be a little bit awkward for me to ask the question, what's going on? What did that mean? What should I be doing right now? Whereas when I'm in a completely foreign culture, people go out of their way to explain to me what's happening. I went to a wedding in Kenya. I've been traveling through, Southeast Asia and Malaysia and Vietnam and other places. And when they see me and they see I'm obviously not from here, they give me a little bit of extra leeway because naturally I'm not going to know what to do in advance. Some other examples is that I often find myself, rather than socializing with peers my own age, I end up in groups where I'm the youngest by 20 or 30 years, or where I'm obviously the oldest, where in a mentoring situation, for example. I did a lot of sort of like youth volunteer work as running groups and as a mentor and leader and things like that. And in that capacity, I wasn't relating to my peers. I was relating to the others there as their mentor, which was very different. Similarly, these days, I find myself associating with groups of people who are much older than me, who have been in business for a long time, or who are politicians, or other group facilitators or other people who tend to be a lot older than me. I play cards with my parents, for example, and their friends, and I'm the youngest by at least 20 or 30 years, in those kind of settings. And it's a similar dynamic because I'm not expected to do what everyone else is doing. Ironically, when I do fit in, when I feel like I am doing everything that is socially expected of me in that moment, I feel less included for a weird reason, because it can really easily creep into my mind that I'm only welcome, I'm only included because I'm doing what everyone else is doing. And weirdly, when I'm doing something that is clearly different to what everyone else is doing, maybe I'm the only one standing up in a meeting. Maybe I'm the only one with headphones in and everyone else is at the bar without headphones in because most people don't wear earplugs at a bar or a cafe. When I'm doing those things and I'm still accepted, then it banishes this thought that I have to fit in order to be accepted. Whereas when I am just a regular part of the group blending in like everyone else, there's that thought that creeps in that if you step out of line, if you suddenly draw attention to yourself, people are going to say, "What are you doing here? Get out, you don't belong here." And I know that a lot of that is in my head. I know that a lot of that is just a rejection sensitivity where I worry that it's going to happen in advance, even though the chances of being rejected are a lot lower than my brain imagines. But the point here, I guess, is that it's a bit of a funny situation that I deliberately, because of what I've just described, I end up either deliberately or unconsciously ending up in these situations where I am the odd one out. And looking back, this has been something I've done my whole life. I mean, my very first real entry into the social world was when I got dreadlocks when I was 16. I didn't know anyone else with dreadlocks. When I went to a party, I would be the only one with dreadlocks. People would ask me about them because they'd never seen them before. And this allowed me a little bit of a gimmick to say, look, I'm special and I'm interesting in a way that is socially appropriate at the same time. So what does that mean then? How do I belong to a group if I'm always the odd one out? If I am scared of being a genuine member of the group and I always want to be a visitor and I always want to be the foreigner or the young person or the old person or the only man in the room or whatever that is, then am I going to really belong properly to a group? There is a very interesting, unique group of people called the Autistic Community where no matter what your age or gender or background or culture or any of those types of things, you will not be the odd one out because there's so many of us from so many different places. And perhaps ironically, again, I often feel the most sense of belonging amongst autistic groups precisely because I know that I'm not welcome because I conform. I'm welcome because I'm welcome, and I don't need to conform. I don't need to do anything in particular to maintain that belonging in the group. So if this video had a point, I haven't discovered it yet. Maybe it does have a point and I will discover it soon. But until then, I guess I've just shared some interesting insights that I've been coming to terms with recently, that I've been noticing about the fact that I always end up being the odd one out. And it's a bit challenging to think maybe I'm limiting myself in that way. Maybe I'm subconsciously or even deliberately choosing to be the odd one out. And what would it be like to be a full member of a group, to feel like I belonged and to not be constantly questioning if that status would be revoked. So I'm interested to hear if you like to be the odd one out, or maybe you prefer to blend in and you feel safer when you're camouflaging. So leave us a comment if you'd like to share what works for you. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I hope you've found this mildly interesting, and I will see you again next week. Bye.